Have you ever heard the story of how to boil a frog? You put a frog in a pot of water and you turn the flame real low at first. And the water starts to warm up and the frog is thinking, well, I'm all right. I've got my nice pot of water here. I'm doing fine. I noticed it's gotten a little warmer, but I can get used to it. It's not a big deal. Still, I've got my pot of water here and I'm doing fine. And then you turn the heat up a little bit more. And the frog says, gee, kind of starting to get a little warm in here, but so used to this nice little pot of water I've got for myself that I'll stick it out. I'll be fine. Maybe it'll pass anyway. And then you turn up the heat a little bit more. And now the frog says, gee, it's really starting to get hot in here, but I've kind of gotten really used to the place and comfortable here. This is what I'm familiar with, and it'd be an awful hassle to go try and find another pot of water to splash around in, so I guess I'll make do. I'll stick it out. And then you turn up the flame real high, and the frog begins to boil, and it is stunned and can't get out anymore. And gradually it boils to death. You ever hear the story of how to catch wild pigs? Well, the first thing you do is you start throwing some corn out onto the edge of the woods where the wild boars might be living. And after a while they discover this, and then they discover that, oh, it seems like there's corn here every day. So of course they come and they start eating it. And after a week or so, maybe you put up one section of fence, and then you sprinkle corn on one side of the fence. It's just one fence. It's not a big deal. It's just one fence. And the pigs come over and say, hey, what's going on with this? What's happening here? There's a fence here now? Or, well, I see it's just a section of fence. We can go around it. It's just a minor impediment. And we can go and eat that corn that we've come to depend on. And so you do this for another week or two, and then you add another section of fence. So now you have like a 90-degree angle. And the pigs come over and they say, whoa, okay, looks like there's another fence barrier here, but we can still work our way around it and get on the inside to eat the corn. This continues, as you can imagine, for another week or so, and then you put a third section. So now you have like a U, okay? And the pigs are a little bit concerned at this point. They're starting to feel that things are shifting. We're used to getting this corn handed to us. We've come to depend on it. It's always there for us. We haven't been foraging as much since the corn has been handed to us. But gee, now there's 3 sections of fence. We have quite a bit to get around now to get inside and get the corn, but we still can, and corn's there, so I guess we'll go in and get it. And then this goes on for another week or so until at one point when the pigs are all distracted from consuming the handout of corn that's been given to them, you come along with the 4th section of fence and lock them inside. So, has anyone else been feeling like a wild pig or a boiled frog lately? I think a lot of us have, and it might seem a little harsh to say this, but I think those who are not bothered by it at this point are the kind of person that we might call sheeple, like sheep or lemmings led en masse over the cliff, or zombies. And I think at this point, anyone that isn't at least awakening to what's going on in humanity, I don't think there's any hope. And I wouldn't recommend putting much effort into trying to wake them up if you are awake and you see that they're not. I think at this point the lines are pretty clearly established, almost to completion, as to the awakened and the asleep. And even Rumi said, let the sleepers sleep. Leave them asleep. Don't try to wake them. But this is a discussion about what I perceive over many years, and I'm only talking about it right now, what I perceive to be an absolutely clear war on our consciousness, a war for our souls. You can frame it however you want, but I think everyone understands what we're talking about. We have been duped so many times, and yet people can still be duped, which is shocking. There's still a big percentage of people that are perpetually dupable. So many examples. I think you know what some of the more recent ones are. And many people who were duped were warned as the duping was taking place. And as the duping was about to take place, they were warned. But they scoffed, dismissed it, wrote it off, laughed it off, called anyone that warned them, the list of names. Tinfoil hat, conspiracy theorist, nut job, all those kind of things. But it seems, doesn't it, that the difference between a conspiracy theory and truth is about 6 to 8 months. It's astonishing how many incidents and situations which are called conspiracy theories are spot on. Just be patient. And by the way, you have to be less and less patient these days. Whereas things used to take years to unfold and unravel and the truth come clean out of them, it can now take days. But there is a battle for our consciousness, for our souls. And it is being spearheaded by globalist, authoritarian tyrants and all of their minions, lackeys and tools, mindless little monkeys that serve them. And the West just can't embrace this fast enough. The West is in a race to outdo China in tyranny. Look at Australia, New Zealand, Canada, United States, and I'll put the UK at the very top of the list. Unrecognizable according to the principles upon which they were all founded. But it's all for your own good, so comply, obey. And, this is done by a process of, it's done by a process of perpetual and incremental desensitization, distraction, and division, conflict, the whole tribalism aspect. And what it has resulted in making of humanity, as far as I can tell, is that we are like gods living, I should say, we are like gods existing as slaves. In a spiritual sense, we are of divinity. I'm not saying we are God, but we are definitely of divinity. We are certainly of a higher nature than that which we are existing in now. I'm hardly even going to say living. And everybody's feeling it if you're even half conscious. And, you don't have to look very far. You don't have to talk to too many people to find that out. Everybody is enduring this and receiving and processing this and handling this or not handling this to the best of their capabilities. But this is going to keep on happening. And there's a good reason to believe that it's going to get a lot more intense and soon. And for that reason, as a Christian preacher would say, get your house in order. Get your house in order. Begin with yourself within. Get yourself right with God. Get your family aligned and attuned in a lifestyle and a daily routine that is God-centric. Promote, perpetuate, and embody and practice all that is good, pure, sacred, holy, and divine, and have absolutely nothing to do with whether participating or allowing anything that is to the contrary of what is holy and divine and good. Because although there's plenty of doomsayers on the internet you can find, and it's not fun and it's not enjoyable, it's no party to really dwell on all those things, but there's good reason to believe, and I think a lot of people can feel it, that a lot of excrement is fan bound. Hopefully it's not. Of course, hopefully it's not. Okay, throw that in the air like confetti. Hopefully it's not. But it seems like it is, and we should be prepared for it, whether it ends up being the case or not, shouldn't we? If you don't believe so, if you're an everything denier, well, I suppose if you ignore human nature and history, then maybe you have a case. Now, people are feeling helpless and overwhelmed as individuals. What can I do about it? I can't do a thing about it. Okay, well, that's why the first video I ever published was Tend Your Own Garden, because that is a conclusion for everything. Make sure that you take care of the business of your soul first. But we can't hide from this. I think that we're well past the point, I should say the luxury of being able to hide from this. It's like the salami slicing that you always hear about. It's just a little closer, a little closer. It's marching inward. They're tightening the noose every moment. Now, this is not to make you feel distraught and depressed and traumatized and all that. This is talking about, we're having a discussion about the state of the world. It's not a good state. Of course, there's good people and good things in it, but I'm talking generally and collectively and lately. So people feel helpless as individuals, and yet we can't hide from it. The best we can do is sort of buy time by moving as far away from the pig pens, meaning cities, as possible. That's where the livestock is contained, tagged, injected, numbered, controlled, and slaughtered. Might sound extreme, but you get my point. And to a point, it's not extreme either. So we can move away from there as far as possible, but then don't bring your policies and agendas that created that or allowed that in that environment to the new place that you go, please. Especially if you move to Montana, Wyoming, Utah, Idaho, Texas, Tennessee, Florida, etc. They don't want it. That's for the Americans. But you can move away as far from civilization as possible, but that will only buy you some time because they continue to tighten the noose. And we're past the point of burying our head in the sand like an oyster, as Anuheya said in an interview months ago. You can't bury your head in the sand like an ostrich. We're past having that luxury. Because ignorance does not make us immune. It makes us vulnerable. So, we can cover our eyes and say blah, 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 but we're still going to be affected by it, and we're going to be caught off guard, unprepared. We're going to be at its mercy. So that's the worst thing you could do. Obviously, we want to keep calm, centered, connected, lucid, clear, peaceful, in a state of grace, in a state of constant communion with God. Ask for answers when you don't know. Discern when you receive guidance within. But this is no time for spiritual and moral cowardice. The cowards and masochists who would do nothing and would have us all do nothing need to get out of the way. You are a tremendous part of the problem. Those kind of people are enabling and allowing the infection to gain tremendous ground in the human collective psyche. They need to get out of the way. You are a hindrance to those who are awakened and are ready to take action, even if they're not really sure what it is. And it starts within your own self, within you first, then within your family and your home, and then within your community. I don't think we have to go too far beyond that, but it gets more and more macro into, state or province, region, country, international, whatever. We're all part of the collective, but I think that, acting very locally is the start and the core and the most important part of it. Because humanity is made up of individuals who make up families, who make up villages, who make up states, who make up countries, who make up continents, who make up the earth. Okay, so all levels, but start with the smallest, which is you. And that's no small thing, because that's your charge. That's your duty. That's all you're asked to do, is maintain and manage you and those who are minors under your care. If you have any of those, we call them children. So ignorance is not a solution. It doesn't make us immune. It makes us vulnerable. And neutrality. Well, I don't know. I'm neutral. I don't have anything to do with any of this. I'm not involved. Really? How wonderful it would be if we could just declare that. But unfortunately, that's not an option, because this is affecting humanity and you are currently part of it. So you can't call neutrality. I don't want to upset anybody. I don't want to take an offensive stand. I don't want to do anything hard, scary, or costly. I honestly believe we're past the point of having that luxury. And besides, neutrality is a form of cowardice, parading as complacency, which is enabling. It's a passive endorsement of the tyranny and enslavement of humanity that is incrementally on the march. Especially in regards to the astonishing amount of social propaganda that we have been drowning in for quite some time now, I've noticed that our compassion has been weaponized. Our love has been weaponized. It's been politicized and used to attack and subdue and divide. It reminds me of The Green Mile. If you haven't seen the movie The Green Mile, please see it as soon as possible. Rent it, buy it, online, whatever. But John Coffey, the big guy that was imprisoned wrongly. Oh, I shouldn't even tell you that if you haven't seen the movie. But John Coffey said, they use their love against them. In other words, evil hijacked people's compassion and love and twisted it to use it against them for harm, for evil. And that's part of what's going on with us right now as a society, as a species. It's a shame. And then there are those who will say, oh, well, what are you so worried about? Everything is just as it should be. Why are you taking this side or that side, taking a stand or not taking a stand, labeling this as right and this as wrong. Why are you doing? You know, things are going to take the course that they take, but my role in them and my participation in them is up to me. I may not be able to have any impact or influence on anything that happens in the world, although I don't literally believe that. But I may have no significant impact on anything. Even with this channel, even with all of our viewers doing everything they can, we may not make a big difference. However, who am I to you? Some of you will know who said that and why. It's up to you. Who are you going to be? Who are you? What do you believe in? What do you stand for? Where are your boundaries? What is the limit of what you are going to compromise? How far are you willing to lose yourself to go with the flow or to hide from conflict when it is in your face? And that's why I say the spiritual cowards and moral masochistic types need to get out of the way. You are a barrier, an impediment to those who are willing to, as they say, fight the good fight. We are living in a world where AI could become something very soon that we could not even imagine. And there's a whole lot of potential for that to be not good. It's possible that the human ego has created its own Frankenstein. But when it breaks out of the lab, it will not be contained. It could lead to an incomprehensible, unimaginable future conflict, war, or battle like we have never even conceived before, despite all of the other, what we would call good things that it also may do. But that's not what I see underlying it. I don't see benevolence underlying it. I don't see benevolence at the end of its evolution. Oh, you're so negative. Okay, it's what I see. You don't have to agree. We will know, and we will probably all be alive to see it. We have currency systems about to be launched and currently being created by different countries in which literally every single transaction you ever make will be monitored, recorded, potentially controlled, and potentially banned or blocked. You could be locked out of even accessing your money, your wealth. And if you don't like it, you can just opt out of it and succumb. Or you can opt in and comply. They have the ability with the CBDC to know everything you buy, how much you bought, where you bought it, what your buying trends are, what your tendencies, traits, and stances might be, and if they don't like it, they can shut you off. And most of the world, especially the younger generations, will jump headfirst into this. And it will be lauded as easy and fast, effortless and modern. Just watch. You don't have long to wait. We have a social credit system originating in China that the West is drooling to embrace and duplicate and amp up. And all of this stuff is going to be tied together. Can you imagine living in a world where what you think, how you view things, what your stance is, what your political or religious leanings are, what your buying habits are, your eating habits, your driving habits, your travel habits, your whatever, every bit of your consciousness and actions are recorded, monitored, limited, controlled, and even prohibited when an overlord figure disagrees with something you do or feels that you're doing too much of this, not enough of that. You're not behaving in the way we want you to be, so we'll just lock you out. And imagine if all of this system is eventually, and it's inevitable, controlled by AI. Because that's precisely where we're headed with this. I don't know how anyone could not see that at this point. And that's why I've made this episode, to talk about these things. So, the bottom line is we have to take a stand. We have to take sides on what we are going to allow, enable, participate, and promote, and what we are not. If you want to make it easy now, jump in, question nothing, obey everything, go with the flow, do what they told you. And see where that gets you in the big picture, in the long run. Not even just here on this planet. Or, and I'm not saying it's fun, take a stand. No, I will not be a part of that, and I will not allow that, and I will not participate, and I will not promote, and I will not accept it. I will live outside of it at any cost, which may be our end, or at least as much as I can for as long as I can. And then up to you. But in the end, we must never sacrifice our principles of truth on the altar of nice. In other words, I don't want to make waves. I don't want to cause any trouble. I don't want any commotion. I don't want any attention. I'll just go along to get along. Okay. That's called being a sellout, when moral, spiritual, and ethical principles are being so blatantly violated. Our sovereignty is sacred, and it is a shame that we need to defend it, but we need to defend it. That's what is happening in humanity in this world now. We must defend it. What if you don't? It will gladly be pummeled and trampled over and taken away from you effectively. These globalist authoritarian tyrants do not have the right to do this, but without any blowback or resistance from we sovereign souls, they do have the power to do it. Might makes right, as they say. There's a Hawaiian word that I really, really love, and it's called pono, P-O-N-O, pono, and it means everything that is righteous and proper and good in every aspect of that. And we must ola pono. We must live pono. Live in righteousness, in purity, in goodness, in holiness, in purification. We must. It's down to the wire. And I think that the events that certainly seem to be imminent and perhaps inevitable in this world demand that if we are going to endure and survive with our sacred sovereignty and the purity of our souls intact, we have no choice. So, buckle up. Take a stand now. You don't have to become a tyrant to oppose tyranny. You don't have to become the monster that you fight. Certainly not. That would be a tragedy. Establish your boundaries, your principles, your ways, according to the light within you, from which you have arisen, and which you will return, and which now we must attune, align, and harmonize with, and serve. Whatever you choose to do, whatever you are able to do, in light of the great battles that are being dropped upon us now. Do not forfeit your eternal soul for the temporary comfort and ease of your mortal body. If it comes down to the wire, remember that you are soul, and you are currently occupying a body you have been loaned. You are not that body. You are not anything that you inhabit, occupy, or possess, but rather you are the very spirit, breath, and life of the supreme, pure love, divine, almighty God, who created you and to whom you will return. So if you are confused about what action to take, what decision to make, think of the macro, timeless spirit aspect of things, as opposed to the temporary, incarnate, mortal aspect of things, as much as possible. I do not claim to have all the answers and the solutions. I struggle with this myself. I cannot tell you what you must do, but I can emphasize those principles and those points that must be considered for a wise and complete decision about what way you are going to live as the world around you becomes what it is becoming. Certainly have no part in any of the filth of it. Don't be deceived. Don't be a sellout. Don't be a cowardly zombie or slave. The world has too many who are willing to sell it all out for their immediate ease. I do suggest that we not be among them. In conclusion, start with yourself. Tend your own garden. Establish your boundaries, principles, guidelines, daily routine, sadhana, and your ways of living. And do the best you can for those who are directly under your care. And pray, pray, pray. Pray meaning connect, connect, connect. Commune, commune, commune. Attune, attune, attune. Abide, abide, abide. Prevail, prevail, prevail.